Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic hits.
Let's have a little bit of a roundup of some of the stories that's happening in Cork. Some of those nice little nifty Cork stories that Sarah Horgan from Echo Live always comes up with. Good evening to you, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
Well, sir, I mean, look, a sad story to start off with in Cork is a couple who captured the hearts of many people in Cork this week following their death from separate illnesses on the same day. What are the chances of that happening? And that is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, so you might say that recently deceased Mary and Ted Dennehy were the main characters in their own love story. And I'll tell you why. They were laid to rest together last week after passing away from separate illnesses on the same day, which is almost unheard of. So Mary Dennehy from Moy, she passed away from cancer just hours after her husband Ted, he's from High Street, Cork City originally, he succumbed to a respiratory condition. But I was speaking to their daughter, and she was talking about the hours leading up to their deaths, and
were they both in the same hospital? Were they both in the same hospital?
Yeah, they had really fought to find them long-term care together. And what's so beautiful about this story is that they both were in there for one purpose, and that was to look after each other. Neither of them believed that they should have been in a nursing home. So Mary didn't actually realise she was sick, and her children said to her, "Listen, would you ever go into St. Patrick's Community Hospital in Fermoy? Would you look after Dad, their dad, Ted?" And the same was said to Ted. They said,
so neither of them knew.
Well, Mary didn't. Anyway, she had cognitive issues, which
yes, of course,
would have made it more difficult for her to realise. Ted, on the other hand, he had respiratory issues. So it wasn't clear if he was going to last as long as Mary, but it just shows how they both lived for each other. And their daughter, Mary Rose, said to me that she was just so happy with the care that they received at St. Patrick's Community Hospital in Fermoy that she asked, can we still continue to call in, because they've become like part of the family too. So she said that staff were like a second family.
But you know what? Isn't it wonderful that if you spend your whole life with somebody and you're married to somebody in your late whatever 80s or whatever it happens to be, and you spend your whole life with somebody, isn't it wonderful that you both died together? Because then neither one of them will have the sadness of living without the other. Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe that sounds wrong of me to say that, but I couldn't think of a better scenario for them.
Yeah, there was something about this story, and there was something so, it almost happened the way it was meant to. His Ted and Mary, their Mary Rose, she was speaking to her dad, Ted, and it was the day that they said that that Mary was expected to pass. So she said she told him that she heard that he wanted to go on a journey, and that was when he told her, "I want to go with Mary." Those were his exact words.
No,
and she said to him that you've suffered enough, and if you want to go on this journey, you can. And she told him that that their mum would be very comfortable and they would take care of her, and they never spent a moment apart. They shared the same.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, Sarah. You're breaking
home.
my heart.
And in the last days, they had such a lovely life up to the end. They did all the activities in the nursing home, and Mary still got her hair done every week, and they had a grandchild who was due on their wedding anniversary. How beautiful is that?
Oh my God, it's beautiful. And you know what? It's kind of a happy ending to some degree because they'll never have to live without each other. But it's tragic as well and heartbreaking. Well, look, anyway, a transatlantic voyage of a miniature sailboat has resulted in an unlikely friendship between two schools. Now, I'm trying to figure this out because when you give me the briefs on these stories, I'm trying to, in my head, like a little jigsaw puzzle, figure out how this happens. And, I'm trying to figure out how a transatlantic voyage can bring two schools together.
I like it to keep you guessing. That's
I know you do.
intentional.
I know you do.
Yeah. I should be a bit more straightforward. So usually we get a message in a bottle. That would be the traditional way of sending a message. But this is students of this school in the US, so sixth graders in Morristown Beard School in New Jersey, they decided they'd do things a little differently. And they put together a miniature sailboat. And they put in all items that were special to them and their school in the boat to see if it would make its way over. So there was a baseball cap, an Abraham Lincoln coffee mug, a USA jersey, and 35 letters from the school children there. So it's not just a message; it was all these letters. They went through an awful lot of trouble. So it drifted all the way across the Atlantic and survived the treacherous seas on its voyage from the US. This is a story from Owen Kelleher and the Echo, by the way, before I forget.
Okay.
So the sailboat was recovered by a local fisherman, Bill McCarthy, and his daughter, Katie. And they decided to link them in with pupils of the closest national school, Barry Rowe National School. And they've all become pen pals, and they speak to each other all the time. And the hardy little craft, it hasn't finished its journey yet. They've made it a new sail, and they've put their own items from their own school into it.
Right.
And they're going to see if they can make another school and just keep the chain going.
I was wondering how the two schools were going to get involved. I just now know the answer. I've now found out the answer, and it's wonderful.
I hope I explained it well.
Yeah, I'm assuming it'll end up in a museum somewhere or something like that, will it?
I just hope it keeps going and keeps bringing all the schools together. I used to have a pen pal, and I thought they were the greatest thing ever. Did you ever have a pen pal?
I didn't, but I know people who did have pen pals many years ago. Pen pal was like having a friend on Facebook in those days. I'm old enough to remember pen pals, and people would write back and forward, and they'd get maybe 3 or 4 letters a year. If you explain that to a young person nowadays, they go, "Well, why don't you just text them?" You know what I mean? So young people just wouldn't understand the logic of a pen pal. But there was something nice about the written word. And so many people nowadays don't write anymore. So many kids nowadays don't even have the ability to have nice handwriting anymore because they type everything. They can text till their hearts go to content, but they can't actually write properly anymore, which I think is sad. Anyway, an incredible Cork kid, speaking of children, has gone to incredible lengths to honour the memory of his teacher who sadly passed away from cancer last year. So what did he do? Or she?
So this is a story by Chris Dunn in the Echo, and it was also in the Southern Star as well. So Cork boy Fionn Wiseman's hair, he let it go for 3 years during the pandemic. So sadly, last year, he lost his teacher, Miss Sandra, from Carrickboy National School in Doris. She passed away from cancer, and it had such an impact on all the children. Fionn is only 12, and he wanted to do something really worthwhile in her memory. So this is what he decided to do. He grew his hair as long as possible, and then he cut it, and he raised so much money. He raised €6,011. And not only that, the reason he wanted to cut his hair was because he could donate his hair as well. So he donated the hair to the Rapunzel Foundation for children suffering from cancer who've lost their hair. And all the money then went to Laura Lynn, which is obviously, as you know, a hospice for children with life-limiting conditions and residential care for children. But he seems like this kid, he seems hilarious. He seems like he's a right character, because he said that it's handy now that it's cut, because he said his hair dries quickly after a shower, but he said it did have its advantages before, because he said he used to have long hair when he was playing the sports, and he said the coaches used to say, "God, she's a great player." He said they thought he was a girl, so they'd always say, "She's a great player." And he said, "I got away a lot with being tackled." So he's hilarious.
They thought he was a girl. Right, I get you. Also, a Cork charity highlighted the desperation for families struggling with communion costs after donating 36 dresses and 24 pairs of shoes to little girls in need of help. Now, I have a bit of a bugbear with this one, right? And well done to the charity, and you can tell me all about them in a second. But the amount of money that people are spending on communion in general is just bonkers. I've heard stories of little kids' dresses, particularly girls. I'm not being sexist here. Boys really don't matter too much when it comes to communion. But the girls, these little dresses, like wedding dresses, literally costing as much as wedding dresses. Having, horse-drawn carriages, fake tans, nails done, all this for their communion when they're only 8 years of age. It's costing a fortune.
Well, they're not paying for the horse-drawn carriages anyway, which is something. This is just dresses. But yeah, I have a friend who's a beautician, and she had an 8-year-old ring up and make the appointment herself for tan. Of course, she didn't honour it. But
bonkers,
yeah, these are stories we're hearing all the time. But okay, if you could take something nice from this story, because this definitely is a nice one. I promise.
These are for people in need, and it's just something simple, I suppose, just so they don't feel left out on the day.
Yeah, this is a very simple gesture here now. So Katrina Toomey from Soup Kitchen charity Cork Benny Dinners in Cork City said that families have phoned her and sent messages in the hope that she might be able to rescue their child's big day. So Miss Toomey she's given out 36 dresses, 24 pairs of shoes, and 30 pairs of communion socks even in recent weeks, following heartbreaking requests from parents. And what's really special about this and about these parents is that when these kids grow up, they're not going to have any recollection of the poverty or the difficult times, because they do it in such a way that so there's one parent, for instance, and she actually, this was last year because they're doing it a few years now, she actually sat down with a child and she had pictures online of the dresses that were available, and she said, "We're going to order you a dress online. Which one would you like?" So she picked out the dress she wanted, and Katrina presented it like a showroom. So when the little girl came to meet them, she just thought she was in a showroom. Now it's obviously confidential setup, but there was one little girl and she came at the wrong time. So there were two little girls bumped into each other, and she said it was like it was meant to be. They met and they tried on their dresses and they became really good friends and told each other they both looked beautiful. And Katrina always had sweets and glasses of orange and everything. So I think it just changes the associations then we have with our communion day. We don't think of not having the money. We think of that lovely day we spent. They can think of that lovely day they spent with Katrina.
I mean, communion nowadays, I suppose, for kids, it's all about making money. It's all about how much can you get off aunties and uncles. Do they still dress up for confirmation? They don't. Most schools do confirmation now in school uniform, don't they?
Well, I know Katrina Toomey, she gave out a few confirmation outfits as well in Cork. Anyway, there's I still see an awful lot of them going to a lot of trouble on their confirmation.
Yeah, I remember my kids now for their confirmation. They were in their uniforms. It was uniforms. So, which I think is a good idea, by the way, because otherwise it just, particularly for confirmation, it turns into a fashion show. Do you understand what I'm saying? They all think they're going to their Debs or something like that.
They do, and I know somebody. I have a friend who's an atheist, and they just bought their child a communion dress, and they just went out for the day and went for a spin just so she could get a chance to wear the dress.
Well, I mean, communion and confirmation, it's not so much a religious occasion anymore. It's more like just an Irish tradition. I know they're trying to take it out of the schools now at the moment to separate church and state and all that kind of carry on. But it's become more of a tradition. It's like funerals, weddings, christenings, all those kind of things. They're more of just Irish traditions more than religious events and religious occasions.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose baby limbo isn't the threat that it once was before.
No. I mean, as I said before, you know, when a little girl is walking down the church aisle, you know, dressed in her dress with her little hands clasped, you know, together and little bag over her wrist, she's not thinking about, you know, holy God. Well, I don't think she is anyway, generally speaking, unless her particular mindset.
I wasn't anyway.
No, you're thinking about how
For the
quickly will this
dress,
be
yeah.
over? How quickly do I look good? How quickly will this be over? And how much money will I make today? And will I have enough for an iPhone? That's usually what they're probably thinking. Anyway, a Cork man has co-written an animated Star Wars, which is currently streaming on Disney Plus, but it's got a cultural reference. I'm assuming it's an Irish cultural reference. And you say here that you won't believe it actually made it over the line. I'm wondering what the cultural reference is. Is Luke Skywalker an alcoholic or something like that? Because, of course, here in Ireland we drink quite a lot.
It's a bit worse than that.
Oh, no.
So remember Bishop Brennan and the Kick Up the Arse?
Kick up the arse of Bishop Brennan, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll get to that. So I'll explain. So Will Collins. Have you heard of Will Collins?
No.
He's from Cork. He's amazing. So
Tell me about him, because I've no idea who he is. Who is he?
Yeah, I'll tell you. He wrote the screenplay for Wolf Walkers.
Okay.
You know that animated feature that was nominated for an Oscar. And
I do vaguely remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And Song of the Sea as well. He wrote the screenplay for that. So there's something on Disney Plus where it's called Star Wars. What's it called? Star Wars Visions. Sorry, I had to look on my notes there because I'd completely forgotten.
That's okay.
This is a commission which gave him this amazing opportunity to spend a week working at the hub of the Star Wars universe. So that's George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch north of San Francisco, which is like huge for Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
So this is like how could I explain this? It's a new season of a Star Wars animation series we're currently streaming on Disney Plus. So it's where they give filmmakers kind of like fan fiction. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right, I get you. Yeah, like the fan trailers that we see. Yeah.
Yeah, they're letting independent filmmakers and animators tell their own stories within the world of Star Wars. So, so what was it? Where did they kick up the arse?
I'm dying to know where the arse part comes into it here. Yeah, but go on.
Yeah. So one of the Irish-inspired aspects, which added a bit more spice to the episode, was a reference to the famous Father Ted episode in which Bishop Brennan gets to kick up the arse. So this makes it into the episode because one of the characters created by Will and his co-writer wants to give a ghost at Screecher's Reach a kick up the arse. So it's kind of like...
and do they use the word arse?
That's the amazing thing. They actually did. Oh my God, I just used the word arse, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
It's okay because it's night. It's
after
nighttime.
9. Yeah, it's after 9. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's Irish radio. Who cares?
Yeah, so they absolutely. It was a homage to Father Ted in the sense that there's a famous episode called "Kicking Bishop Brennan Off the Arse." This is great. I've got to say arse so many times.
Yeah, say it again if you like. Arse.
No, I won't.
Just go on. No. Say it, Sarah. Come on. I know you're a lady, but
once is enough.
Arse.
Once is enough. So yeah, they pitched it and they couldn't believe that it actually made it over the line because they were saying it was culturally significant in this instance. That's exactly, and I quote, this is a story from the Cork man, by the way, just in case it sounds like I'm claiming it there. So,
but it's bizarre that the Americans wouldn't even know what the word arse is. I remember, I think it was The Van or The Commitments, I can't remember, when they released it in America, they had to release it with subtitles because the Americans would have no clue like what arse is or, you know.
And yeah, that might explain why they had
those other words.
A film out called our souls at night, OURR souls at night.
Right.
And that nobody who came to Britain and Ireland then they thought they got why it was so jarring for people. But Will Collins, I make some short films myself, and he's really kind to people on the amateur circuit. So he very much remembers where he comes from.
Okay.
And the great thing about Will is he always has a funny story. I'd say he could probably walk to the shop and back and he'd have a funny story. But in this case, he talked about going to the what do we call it? The Skywalker Ranch, because that's where they were making it.
It's like an Elvis fan going to Graceland in Nashville.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it now. And he was saying that one day he was pursued by this gathering of wild turkeys, and they were chased a half a kilometre. They were running away from all the turkeys. You just never know, like, the bizarre turn that things are going to take.
And you're a filmmaker yourself, Sarah. You do some amateur filmmaking.
I'm not on Will's.
But you're dabbling.
Yeah, I wouldn't
be
on Will's radar now. Yeah, I have something coming. I had something in the Cork Film Festival, and I do quite a bit of it now.
All right, okay. So are you possibly the next? I was going to say Steven Spielberg, but Sarah Spielberg. Are you? No. Are you getting to that level? Maybe yet.
Well, I don't know. Self-praise is no recommendation, is it?
Yeah, well, that's what they say. I mean, I don't know. When I'm old and grey, well, actually, I'm a bit grey now. When I'm old, maybe I'm a bit old too. Actually, okay, later in life, will I be looking back and going, I knew that Sarah one that's now famous in the Oscars on the red carpet?
But you can say that now, because I suppose I'm kind of famous. No, I'm not famous yet.
Infamous.
Yeah, you can say that. You'll have great old men stories for when you're in the nursing home, and you can say, "Oh yeah, do you know?"
Oh no, I'm not going to any nursing homes.
That'll be one of your old men stories.
I'm not going to a nursing home. I told them, and if I even get close to even needing to go to a nursing home, just put me in a wheelie bin. I'll be grand.
And I'm so looking forward to going to nursing home.
Don't be writing your life off. Sarah, this has been lovely talking to you as usual. Sarah Horgan from the Echo Live. Thank you very much indeed.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.